Hey everybody, I'm Luca Paris and welcome to Monadnock Business Spotlight. This is the show that brings you the people, the companies, the organizations, the businesses who help the New Hampshire's Monadnock region thrive. And as we travel all over the region, and as I am now the CEO and president of the Greater Monadnock Collaborative, the Regional Chamber of Commerce, I've got to meet so many new people and what they do and what their passions are. I love to show those people to you, bring them to you, and have these conversations. And what I don't understand about what their business is or their business model or how they do things, I'm sure that some of you are listening and go, wait, what do they do? And I'll try to answer all those questions for you. So Monadnock Business Spotlight is brought to you by the Greater Monadnock Collaborative, the Monadnock Broadcasting Group, which are the folks here that are helping me do this, and KBK Studios. And if you want to listen back to some of these, you go to WKBKradio.com, and then you just go to podcast and drop down, and you'll see Monadnock Business Spotlight. But one of the things that's so big and so important in the area is marketing. And for those of you who know me over the years, you've seen that the way I do marketing is I throw a bunch of stuff on Facebook and hope people showed up to my restaurant. Now, it worked. But when you talk about the greater world of marketing and marketing your area or marketing your business in an area or past the area, I think it's all about a strategic plan and working with a great company. And one of our newest members is Wunderkind Marketing. And Jan Ziegler is we just dubbed him the Burgermeister and owner of, I think you're going to put that on your card
perfect,
one day.
yes.
It's on your digital card. But Jan, you're here today, and thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me. I think this is great. So I'm the owner founder of Wunderkind Marketing. We're a full service marketing agency in Keene. We're a young company, but we're growing fast, and sort of our goal is really to help like small and medium sized businesses around the area grow and help them figure out the digital landscape, but then also what can still be done sort of offline that helps them grow.
Well, I think the biggest part is in a world where we evolve differently, and it's a generational thing. There are people in the generation or the millennials and Generation Z that they get this right off the bat, right? And as you start a business, it's almost the first thing you should think of. But as you're older, you've lived your whole life marketing differently. It was flyers on cars. It was hand to hand. It was conversations. It's meeting people, and those all still work. But in this digital world we have, and I kind of started with, my way of doing it is I threw spaghetti at a wall in social media, and whatever worked at the moment is what I stayed with. But what you bring is a strategic goal to marketing, right? And talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I think that the most important thing with marketing is that as a business, you have a clear idea of like who is your like target audience. Who do you want to speak to, and how do we reach those people best, right? And so for some businesses, like they want to talk to other businesses, and other people want to talk to young people, and some people want to talk to old people, depending on what they offer.
Right.
And so I think that where we always start with strategic marketing is we want to know, who is your target audience? Who do you want to speak to? And then we figure out which channel we use to reach them. And we're pretty sort of indifferent about how we do that and how we get there, because I think it really comes down to the goals of our clients and what they want to do.
When someone reaches out to you, what's that process like? Is there a lot of kind of learning about the company first on your end? And you have, and let's just put it out there. I've heard of people who do marketing, but they're just like one person companies. You have a team behind you too. Let's answer both of those. So you have the team, and what's that process like if I'm coming to you as a company and say, I don't know where I want to be. What do I need to do?
Yeah, so we're a team. I'm not by myself because I'm a terrible graphic designer. So we have a graphic designer. I'm also terrible at many other things, which is like that's what we have people for. We're 11 now, and we're growing fast. And I think so. Our basically our approach is always like we look at the company. We look at how does this company work. Who have their customers been. Where, like, how have things changed for them recently and where they come from? Because there's so many small businesses and medium-sized businesses, they have been here for decades. And they are sort of pillars of the community. But they also want to grow beyond that, beyond the role that they already have. And so that's why we look at it very indifferently. We're like, okay, what can we do to help? And is there room for us to help? Because some business models, quite frankly, don't really support an agency, and that's completely fine too.
Right. And you give that straight, right? You're also a straight person, and you make sure if we're not going to help you,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you are a small startup, you're just starting out, and maybe you're like in the arts and crafts, and you don't need a website, like you don't need to hire us. Like we'll like find you somebody who will build you a beautiful website. But I think for like if you want to look at marketing strategically and you want to build sort of a business with like strategic marketing, with a long-term strategy, and you're willing to work with us also long-term, then we're a great partner.
What are some of the things that you see that businesses do as pitfalls right away? Like when they try to do it on their own, or even when they go to find a company, what are some of the things that they should stay away from?
I think quick success is a myth, right? Like I think like whoever sells you and it's like, hey, I can double your business in the next 3 months, like I would stay far away from that because I mean, unless your product is a home run, that is probably like they're selling you something they can't fulfill.
Right.
And that's why we're trying to be very realistic, and very pessimistic, really, in growth and what we can do for you. But I think we like that way we can back up our results very easily, and the goal is to like outperform the expectations.
Right.
And I think the things that are really important here locally for businesses is you need to be on a map online, and that's not very difficult to do around here. Like so like when people Google for your service, whether you're a plumber and they need like an emergency plumbing problem fixed, they're like, if you're the first one that shows up, you're probably the first one they'll call. And if you answer the phone, you probably have yourself a customer.
What's it like blending that with now? And you've been in the Monadnock region for a while, and you see the connectivity here. Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of that meeting people in public and that networking, and that's part of why the chamber does well with the community, and even a marketing company like you goes, I'm going to join the chamber so I can meet people. How do you blend the two? It's not all of one and not the other. Do you have that conversation with your clients too?
Yeah. I think hiring a marketing agency always requires a lot of buy-in from the business. If they just like hand us the keys and they're like, do whatever you're going to do, and like we don't want to have anything to do with it, but we're paying you a lot of money to do it.
Right.
That's not a successful partnership, because really, the more our business owners, our clients are involved with us, the better results we can provide them, because we don't know what's happening in the business necessarily, right? We don't know like how the phone calls that you're getting from the leads that we're generating, like, are those good phone calls? How do they go? Do you have somebody answering the phone? Like sometimes we have clients, we're like, well, we're recording sort of phone calls here, but it's just a voicemail because nobody's there to answer the phone. Not productive. And so I think that's where we need to buy in from the businesses and from our clients, and then we have a productive partnership with them. And I think there's still a space for networking. I think I think you just need to do it all nowadays.
Every little piece of that pie adds to the whole thing in general. When someone comes to you for marketing too, and again, there are the older traditional formats, and whether it's radio and print and all that, I guess they all have their place as well. How do you develop an idea of what people need? Is it based on a product? I think you might have answered this, but is it based on what your product and your clientele is?
I think so. I think it's two things. Like we think in funnels. We think about like, okay, people, like, are they top of funnel? Are they like browsing basically? Or do we want people to have like high purchase intent, which means like they're looking to like buy something. Like the guy that's looking for an emergency plumber has high purchase intent because he needs that emergency fixed.
Right.
That backed up toilet needs to be fixed right now. But somebody who's like broadly thinking about maybe buying a new bicycle, like we reach them differently, right? Because we just like want to show them a bicycle here or there, or like a cool story about like, hey, here are cool bike paths in Keene. You might want to consider buying a bicycle.
Right.
And so those are like very different customers, and like the way we speak to them is also very different. And so, for example, if you look at Facebook in general, it's very top of funnel. Like people are just browsing around. They just want to read something somewhat entertaining that's relevant, which means local often here. But they're not dying to buy anything right that second. But then like a Google search is lower funnel. It's like people have intent. Usually when they Google for things, they're at least somewhat interested in following through. And so we need to capture them differently.
That's amazing. And as people are listening to, I want you to give out your information. This is the point in the show where I'm going to take a pivot and talk more about you. But before we do that, so someone's listening for the last 10 minutes and goes, I need to get in touch with Jan. What's the best way to contact you and your team?
Yeah, so you can Google Wunderkind Marketing, Keene, which is us. We will show up right there. Or you can, like schedule a call on our website. You can reach out through a contact form. That all very easy. And we make it easy to find us.
Excellent. It's Wunderkind Marketing. It's WUNDERKIND. hyphen, what's it called?
Hyphen,
That is
hyphen
a
marketing.
hyphen?
Yes.
Hyphen
marketing.com.
It just shows you how much I know.
That is my very German company name.
I love it. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Yes, your accent is not from like Walpole or anything else. You are from Germany.
I am from Germany.
You found your way to Keene.
I found my way to Keene.
I need to hear that story a little bit.
Yeah, so I grew up in Germany. I lived in Germany until I was 20 years old, and then got married to an American, and we sort of like traveled the world a little bit, ended up in D.C. ultimately, and we sort of parted ways, and then I met my new partner, and she's from around here, and she grew up in Harrisville, so she's been here her whole life,
amazing.
and like we were basically sort of debating whether to go south or north, and she was like, well, it's a lot nicer up here. And I'm like, okay, I know nothing about it, but worth a shot. So I moved up here, and I love it. It's a wonderful region. It has everything that like I would want a place to live to have. We have small kids, and it's absolutely perfect.
Well, and I think that's something I love bringing out in these conversations. Is it the outdoor life? Is it the style of living? Is it because we're not a big city? I mean, DC in and of itself has that big city feel internally, right? What is it specifically, or is it a little mix of all of that?
I mean, I think it's a mix of everything, right? Like, I really appreciate the fact that I can like leave the office or go to a meeting 5 minutes before the meeting and still get there in time.
I know.
Like that's so much lifetime saved,
Yeah.
not driving around. But then it's also like it's the outdoors, it's like doing things, it's so kid friendly. There's so much happening, and I think I find really the people and all the business owners and the community here really inspiring because there's so many people just doing their thing and like. They're actually not talking about it that much, but they're doing all great things. So many hidden champions around here, and that's super inspiring.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I think that's what I find now in my new position after being in the restaurant for so many years is the amount of people that are out there and giving back to the community. And they're not even thinking about that. That's what they're doing. They just think it's what I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, I do it because it's the right thing to do and I want to benefit my business. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think like what I found, like starting a business here is there's just an endless amount of people like that are absolutely willing to give their time and their like ideas and intentions and like explain to me the community and the business community, which I'm completely new to. So that is like that's just been so helpful for us to sort of figure out where our place is, and we're still figuring that out too.
That's awesome. I know you're also coming to an area that I don't want to say devoid of the diversity of cultures. I mean, there's not many other German people that are here, or unless you found them.
I mean, I think I found a few that are.
They're right. But it's limited. I mean, again, the big city life changes, right? I grew up in New York. I was born in Italy, grew up in New York. I moved up here, and then I went, where is everybody? It's very similar. But that's also changing for the area, too. I think we're finding more people finding the area as a place to just settle down and have a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's so much potential that's untapped yet, or that like is just starting to get tapped into. As like, this is just a great area for people to raise their families, for business. Like, I'm a fan. Like, I'm a believer now.
I love it. Yeah, you drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
it's a big time. Actually, so much so, I think you're in our next magazine.
Oh, that's right.
I have a feeling.
Yeah.
So we do a Monadnock Region Thrive Guide, and I believe there's a picture of you in there. Or are they going to do an article on you? Or do
I
you
think
know
so.
what?
Yeah, I think Julie.
Look at that. So for those of you who are listening, and you're just randomly listening, whether it's on our podcast or on WKBK, you'll see Jan and in the latest magazine that comes out. The summer of 2024. So whenever you're listening, it would have been out at some point. That being said, we are promoting the region as a place to live, work, and your voice is really important because you did, right? You came here, you've traveled, and you found it. And one of the great things about this show is I'm seeing that more and more with all the people I talk to. Either people have left and then come back. I just did one with Rebecca, and she left and came back with her kids. Myself, my wife left here, never thinking she was coming back. And then I fell in love with it visiting and then went, no, we're starting a business. And that's 24 years ago plus, So it's really interesting to see that dynamic. Are you finding, and then this is the big key, are you finding that young people are finding this place a place to live?
I don't think enough yet. Like, I think it's still, there's this big void between like, everything that happens at Keene State and like the young people, and I feel like most of them just leave,
right.
And like they don't come back, and maybe they come back once they have like small kids, but I feel like there's that 10-year gap where they're not here. I feel like that's something to improve on.
Well, and to go back on that, I think when I got married at 24, and I would never have moved here.
Yeah.
But when I was ready to have kids, I couldn't think about living anywhere else. Does that make sense? So that span, that 10 years before I had my kids, I was like, this is not the time. But when you're raising a family, this seems like the perfect place, right?
It is a great place.
Yeah. So let's get back now. That's great. I appreciate this. Have you climbed Mount Monadnock yet?
I have climbed Mount Monadnock once only, though.
Once?
So I do have to get back up.
All right. You're almost caught up to me. I've done it twice, and I've been here over 20 years. So. But it's a beautiful climb, right? And it is the second most climbed mountain in the world. Yeah. And between the two of us, we've done it 3 times.
Yeah, there you go.
You'll beat me. By the time you get to my age, you'll beat me more than that. But so I love that you love the region. I love that you're part of it now and you're really involved in the community. Let's get back to Wunderkind marketing. What are some other things you want people to know about Wunderkind and what you could do for them? And, I think it's important because, again, there are small businesses that go, why would I spend my money with a marketing agency? What do I get out of it? And talk a little bit more about what you offer.
So I think the key really is what I encourage everybody is like let's sit down and have a conversation, right? Because I'm German, I'm very straight, so like I will tell you whether it makes sense or doesn't, in my eyes, and other people might tell you differently, and that's completely okay. But I think the important part is to like sit down, have a conversation, look at what you're doing with your business, where you want to take it, and then what we can do in terms of like bringing value. Because for us, it's really important that we don't sell anything that doesn't make sense to you, because we still want to be here in 20, 30 years. And I think that's really important for us. And so whether that is, like you need a new website, whether it is we need to work on your search engine optimization that you show up on Google, whether it is that we need to like run Google ads so you can sell your product nationwide, like there are like whether we run your social media, because it's a real headache for you to like, do your social media.
Sure.
We will completely take care of that. We do like the photos, the video, really any and all of sort of the marketing things. But the most important thing is that we find the thing that fits your business and your needs, because what we do, we're pretty indifferent about what we end up doing. And
they can get started. Well, anybody could contact me at the chamber because I have your information. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, Wunderkind Marketing, if you just do Wunderkind, so it's WUNDER, because everybody's going to write WON. And I think it goes there anyway.
Yeah.
Kind as in kind, and which means?
Wunderkid, really.
Wunderkid, right? Yeah. Which you are.
No.
You're the Wonder Kid.
But yeah.
Yeah, go with that. But Wunderkind Marketing, and if you do Wunderkind Keen, it'll pop up as well, and you start there and then schedule a call. It's very easy, and free consultation and everything like that. Success stories, and I don't know if you can give out clients or whatever, but I love hearing what you have done, like, and you said, ooh, let me tell you about this story.
Yeah, so great success story of like a very new client of ours. We onboarded them, I would say, like 2.5 months ago. They're a honeybee farm. They're actually not local. They're in Florida. And they're one of the largest sort of honeybees that sell like premium raw organic honey nationwide online. And basically we like took over their social media because, like their social media felt very generic, as came from a large agency. And what we did is we really like hone down on the stories that they're telling, because they're a family farm, they're veteran owned, they've been, out there as a family doing this honey business for decades. And so basically we nailed down on that. We started telling the story of like the family and doing the farming rather than like selling the honey, because nobody cares about seeing, a jar of honey on Facebook. And I think we took engagement and like visibility up like 800% in the first month. They now regularly have like, posts that really go small time viral, which is great for them. And that really actually drives sales. It does not sound salesy. It does not look salesy. It looks very organic, almost like they knew how to do it themselves really well, which is basically almost always the goal, because I think customers don't want to know that an agency is running a business's marketing. It needs to feel like and look like them. And when we can hit that on a nail, then we're really happy, because I think that's the most authentic way to tell those stories.
And I think you mentioned it. It's telling the stories does the sales for you, right? So instead of selling a product, it's the same thing as doing an advertisement only gets you so much, but it's someone doing a story on you and telling your story translates into sales just generically.
Yeah. And I think it makes, organically. Again, it comes like different service and different products are very differently. Nobody will identify with exciting content about plumbing on social media necessarily. So that's not the service. Like business doesn't lend itself to it. That business lends itself to like a Google Ads campaign where you just show up first.
Right.
But if you have an exciting product and an exciting story to tell, then it needs to be told. So again, that's like one of these examples of like we'll make sure to do what fits the business best,
right?
Rather than like what we think we like selling, and so we just do that.
So in a lot of ways, when you talk to a company, so I always said with the restaurant is I never sold food, I sold experiences and memories, right? That's what I created. It's the business knowing what they're really selling, right? It's not honey, but it's a feeling of what you get when you're having that honey and the people that you're buying it from. Right?
Exactly, and the quality, the big thing is the quality, and that is it's done, it's made in America,
right?
And so that's the story we tell, because the honey that we buy at the grocery store is not.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's honey sometimes, but that's a whole nother story.
But yeah, and those are the things that are really fun for us. Is because for me, marketing, the exciting part about marketing is I get basically to look into all of these little businesses, figure out what their models are. And there's so many unique business models, so many unique approaches. And that's like a constant learning and keeps it constantly exciting for me, which is why we, for example, don't specialize in a niche, because I'd just be really bored doing 500 honey farms.
Right.
This is the same story over and over.
Well, yeah, and it's tough to distinguish them sometimes, right?
And so that's why we are really broad in terms of industries, because we find it really exciting learning about them.
That's awesome. Jan, one more time, because I have like a minute left. Give out your information, right?
Yeah.
That went fast.
Yeah, that was quick.
I'm telling you, we have so much more. And people do want to learn more about you, so give out the information how they could get in touch with you.
Yeah, so we're right on Emerald Street, our office. You can come visit us. You can visit us at Wunderkind Marketing. If you Google Wunderkind Marketing Keene, we will show up right up. And then you can sort of reach out through various ways there on our website and get a hold of us.
And they have great SEO. I could tell you.
we should better.
It was so great to have you on. It's so great for you to tell your story. And you're right here, and you show up to my events too, which I appreciate. Yeah. People love meeting you. I got to tell you, there's so many people like, where can I get in touch with Jan? I'm sure you it's easy. So thank you for being part of the community.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, this has been great, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Monadnock Business Spotlight. You're going to find it, and if Jan has his way, you're going to find it in many more places for the future. But these episodes brought to you by the Monadnock Broadcasting Group and the Greater Monadnock Collaborative are all about telling these stories, telling the story about Wunderkind Marketing, telling the story of a nonprofit in the area, sharing the stories of the people who work within the region, start their companies, and make an incredible part of the community. And hearing Jan's story has been just totally tremendous. So I hope, first of all, thanks to Dan. And I hope if you're listening and you want to tell your story and become part of the collaborative, you reach out to me at the Greater Monadnock Collaborative, at luca@greatermonadnock.com. And thanks to Dan for helping us put this on here at WKBK Studios. Thanks to the Monadnock Broadcasting Group. Thanks to Jan, who was incredible today. And telling his story. And we're looking, and if you want to listen to these stories real quick, you go to WKBKradio.com, go to podcast, and you'll see it right there. With that, I hope to tell you more of these in the future, so please listen, and I'll see you next time on Monadnock Business Spotlight.